Good morning, it's Thursday, the 13th of June, 2024, and this is your update on the continent that once invented democracy a very long time ago. German voters are Nazis. Now, that won't come as a surprise to you if you're British, or French, or of any other nationality of Europe other than German. But it might be a surprise if you're a German voter and you get these news from your own government. At least that's how it seems. Now, German ruling parties, a few days after their crushing defeat in the European elections, have turned to insulting their own voters, calling them Nazis and uneducationable. A concept last popular among German politicians during the Nazi rule, by the way. The woke angst that the Nazis are rising from the dead in Germany seems to have finally reached US legacy media. At least CNN reports on scary results, end quote, of the recent elections, without, of course, naming the respective winner of these elections, the Alternative für Deutschland, or AfD, in their headline at least. Political unrest has also reached the Central European oasis of Switzerland, a country renowned for its quality of life and notorious banking industry. For weeks now, the Swiss government has tried to initiate a peace conference on the Russian-Ukrainian war, and now seems to have finally failed. While Russia never intended to take part in the conference anyway, now more and more nations are obviously cancelling their scheduled participation. Such an embarrassment, of course, would not necessarily bring political turmoil to the Alpine Confederation that Switzerland constitutes. But at the same time, the central government seems to jeopardize Switzerland's core value of neutrality. It also seems to undermine the country's hardcore principles of democracy. Swiss newspapers report that members of the national parliament have yesterday been refused access to their chambers and wide parts of parliament, due to a visit of the president of the Ukrainian parliament. A rather dramatic video, at least for Swiss standards, shows agents of the Swiss Federal Police violently hindering the Speaker of the majority party of the Swiss parliament to access the building. Reactions from all political sides in Switzerland were fierce, with the country's major newspaper, Neue Zürcher Zeitung, saying, "We will have to talk about this," meaning by Swiss standards, this cannot stand and is an outrage. Destabilizing democracies is also what the rest of the European Western regimes seem to be most concerned with, apart of course from preparing their military attack against Russia. While the war in Ukraine is still raging, the elites of the so-called European Union have already turned their attention to another candidate for destabilization: the Eastern European Republic of Georgia. Georgia recently introduced a transparency law, forcing all non-governmental organizations to may open their sources of income, especially if it's from outside the country. A law, by the way, that was initially introduced by the United States to defend itself from foreign agents. The European Union and also the United States reacted heavily to this Georgian law, claiming that this would, quote, hinder its way into the European Union. A high-ranking member of the European Union later called the Prime Minister of Georgia, telling him that he should be careful with his policies, for he has seen what happened to Robert Fico. Robert Fico is the Slovakian Prime Minister who a few weeks ago fell victim to an attempt on his life, taking a few shots to his chest. Luckily, Fico recovered and publicly said that he doubts that this act was the act of one man alone, and that, quote, "The freedom of speech in the European Union is non-existent anymore." Again, all of this is neither a joke nor exaggeration, but instead reality in the continent that once invented democracy. Tune in tomorrow for your next update.